Hugh, this one was interesting this morning. Albert Breer in his column of Monday Morning Quarterback about the NFL, the post-combine, takeaways, what he learned. He had a little nugget about Maxx Crosby. You ready for this, Hugh Douglas? Well, Maxx Crosby is one of the best players in the NFL. We've known that for a long time, and it sounds like this is the year where the Raiders are probably going to cash out and move on as they bring in a new coach and they have a new quarterback and all that kind of stuff. So he wrote about Maxx Crosby and his market, and he ended with this. Quote, "We should know soon which path the Raiders are taking with teams like Dallas, Chicago, Baltimore, Buffalo, New England, Philadelphia, and the Rams keeping tabs on his availability." Now, this should excite people out there who do not like giving away great players but want to bring them in. Hugh Douglas, let me ask you. 23rd overall pick for Maxx Crosby.
Nah. I like Max. Don't get me wrong. I like Max.
Doesn't sound like it.
But I feel like you can get in the money that you're going to pay Max. You're going to have to pay him. I feel like you can get a young player in this draft, a young talented guy that could come in and help your squad out. I really do feel like that. I like Max. I like him a lot. I think he's a hell of a pass rusher. But this weekend, just watching some of the workouts, and I know that guys train for the combine. Hell, I trained for the combine. But I feel like you can get a young player that can fit your scheme, and you can find somebody like that, because what's going to end up happening is this. Like, to your point, it's going to shift. Like, you're going to have to start moving some of that money that you've allocated.
Now we're getting why you don't want to trade for Max.
No, but it doesn't fit. Since we're here, it's because it doesn't fit the overall philosophy of the defense as a whole right now. Now, Jalen Phillips and who was it last year, Zach Bond, they have the potential to change that. When Jalen Phillips, if the Eagles decide to pay him or give him what he's asking for.
Yeah, I'd rather trade for Crosby than pay Jalen Phillips.
I
don't trust Jalen Phillips. He's been injured too much in his career.
I think that when you look at defenses, and this was the whole premise behind the defensive luxury, not a necessity, you have a bunch of guys. You have like 22 guys defensive. Well, really it's mostly eight defensive linemen, or 8 to 10 defensive linemen that you have that fit well in a rotation. In the last couple of years, it's been – Nolan Smith was really quiet last year, and I think part of that was because he was hurt. You had Jalix Hunt that came along. He played pretty well.
Played very well.
Probably one of the most versatile guys. But my point is this. You have a lot of working pieces that fit well together. Now, putting Maxx Crosby in the mix with the type of money that you're going to have to pay him, now you're going to have to take some of that money from somewhere else. And at some point, you're going to want to pay Jalen Carter or Jordan Davis.
You would. But so here's my thing on this. I would investigate, and I want the Eagles to investigate trading for Maxx Crosby.
Mm-hmm.
They've already told us they're trying to get this kind of player, Hugh. They tried to trade
they tried N'Kobe Dean. Not N'Kobe Dean, Micah Parsons.
They tried to trade for Micah Parsons last year. We've known there's been at least kind of drabs of speculation around Myles Garrett, right? Like, I think the Eagles are very open to paying a star pass rusher on the defensive line. They just haven't been able to land that guy yet.
I hear you. That makes sense.
And for
it
as much
feel like
as we are like, oh, you can't trade a first-round pick, they may have just given away a third for a rental, right? Like, Jalen Phillips was a rental. They traded a third for him. I don't know if they're going to bring him back. This would give you some certainty up front. And
how does Max?
Max just finished his age 28 season.
Okay.
So he's got, he's coming up on 29. I just think back to a couple years ago. They had a terrible end of the season. Everyone was kind of down, and they went out and they added Saquon Barkley, and it gave a lift back to the team to try to go win the Super Bowl.
22 before when they got A.J. Brown at the draft.
When the Eagles are serious about going to win the Super Bowl, they try.
They make a big move.
They make a big move. And I look at the free agent market, and I don't know if the big move's in free agency. First of all, I don't know if their cap situation allows it, and two, I don't know if the players are there. This would qualify as the big kind of move.
And you talk about, we kind of kicked it around this morning. We don't know how long Coach Fangio is going to be here. That's the kicker, But I feel like with the moves that they've made in the past, I mean, it sounds lovely, but I think that they're more so about the young guys that they've cultivated and groomed themselves.
Well, but those guys have not performed yet. I mean, are you sure about Nolan Smith?
Nope.
I mean, we can't be.
The first year, he fell off a little bit last year. He curtailed a little bit
we're
last
at a point now where we have to wonder, is he worth a second contract? I like Nolan, but I'm not sure. And I like Jalen. But that's like, they told us twice last year they don't have enough pass rush.
Yeah,
they told us with the Parsons thing, and then they told us by getting Jalen Phillips.
Yeah, they probably would want some.
And the Fangio thing to me is no small thing. In fact, it might be like the biggest thing because I'm not going out here looking for a scheme fit. You almost kind of want to get a guy who, and I guess like I'm not 100% certain on this, but I would be pretty sure in saying that Maxx Crosby is the type of guy who like transcends scheme.
It seems like to me.
You plug him in anywhere, and he's best edge rusher, best defensive player on the field. Like
I agree with that.
You can't think so short-sighted. You can't do as Jalen Phillips a fit for Vic Fangio because then we're screwed in a year. I mean, you have to get a guy who I think could do whatever system you bring in. Jim Schwartz after Vic Fangio in a year, it's got to be Max. Like that makes me not want to bring back Jalen Phillips.
I'm with you on the Jalen Phillips, and we're going to talk coming up in a little bit about the free agents we have.
Wouldn't you have to trade if you got him? You'd have to sign him to another contract, right?
Not necessarily. I mean,
okay.
I don't know what he would ask for, but he's under contract. It's not like
for how many years?
I'll pull it up.
Yeah.
The other thing I think about with this is, and I know every time I bring this kind of stuff up, you say, well, I don't want to look at other people's grass. I'm looking at who Albert Breer is saying is going to be interested in Maxx Crosby. And he mentions, let's just leave the AFC teams out. Let's just use the NFC teams. He mentions the Cowboys, the Bears, the Rams. The Rams were already better than us last year. I know the Eagles beat them, but the Rams moved on further in the playoffs, went to the title game. You throw him on the Rams, it's a problem. The Bears look like they're on the rise, and if they add a player like him, that helps their defense, which was the weak part of their team. And then let's just call the big one. I don't want him in Dallas.
No. Dallas.
I want him nowhere near Dallas.
So he is signed through 2029. The Raiders have the potential out after 2028 with no dead cap.
Okay.
So I don't know if that moves with the
2029. Okay, so you have him a couple years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You coming around? Or
Yeah,
you still...
you have him a couple years. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to give him any more money. Yeah.
Unless, he could add. I mean, you never know when a player asks more money. But I'd be very interested in Maxx Crosby.
He's no Trey Hendrickson, though.
Cheers.
I like Trey.
I knew that was going to try to. I knew that was coming.
Would you rather sign Trey in free agency or trade for Max? Trey's a free agent. His star has fallen a little bit.
No, he's on.
Did not have a good year last year.
I kind of like the young guys on the up and come, but I get what you guys. I pick up what you guys are putting down.
Yeah.
You got a veteran guy coming in that is kind of stability on that defensive line. But again, I feel like the strength, so-called strength, is the rotation for the Eagles.
But what is the rotation?
Well,
they have two guys.
They don't have one guy that is like the focal point. They don't have one guy where you say, "Hey, we gotta stop this guy." It's kind of like a committee.
Yeah, I feel like edge is a sneaky weak part of the team. I mean, yeah, I liked what J-Lix did last year. We all did.
Yeah, and you would like to have. I get what you're saying.
No
you would
one
like to have
took
somebody,
a step back.
Yeah,
I mean.
You would like to have somebody a little bit more consistent coming off the corner.
Well, I think they would too. I mean, that's why they tried to go get Micah Parsons. I just think it's very thin, the edge. I think it's why we had to go out and trade for Jalen Phillips. I keep looking at this Maxx Crosby stuff, Hugh. 16.5 career sacks. We're talking. We're talking about one of the best pass rushers in the NFL.
No question about it. No question.
69.5. Excuse me. 10, 7, 7, 12, 12.5, 14.5, 7.5, 10. This guy's a heck of a football player. And I would think you'd love him. He never comes off the field.
No, he's a every down player. Like if you were going to get somebody, but like I said, I feel like in this draft that there was a lot of young guys, and I know we don't really know what the young guys are going to be, and I haven't seen them play a whole lot. But there's a lot of young guys, man, that like you can come in and they can kind of fit that criteria of keeping them like under control, not pay them a whole lot. And figure it out as you kick the can down the road a little bit.
But do we want to use more of our draft picks on edges? We have
question.
Offensive line needs. We have potentially receiver needs if AJ's gone, right? They have tight end need. Like the offense feels like where the draft picks have to go. So if we use a first round pick on an edge, then we're not getting a receiver, a tight end, or offensive lineman.
You could necessarily get like the way that I looked at it, the way that I saw it this weekend when they had the combine. Like you could probably, if you wanted to. You can get one of those young pass rushers with the first pick. And there are still some really good tight ends that you could probably get in the later rounds. Can't remember the big tight end's name. Maybe that as well. I feel like this year, with so many athletic guys out there, especially corners and receivers and stuff, there might be a chance that you can get some offensive linemen and stuff later in the later draft because you got some speedy receivers out there.
It's
man.
a great receiver. I mean,
you got some speedy linebackers. You got some speedy defensive linemen. There might be a team that go, and especially when you talk about the fact that 2 teams in the last 2 years have won the Super Bowl off of defense.
Yep.
There might be a lot of people drooling at the fact that they could go out there and get some athletic defensive players, and it might be a run on defensive players in the first round.
There might be.